Okay, so we're going to finish up page 16 here. We're down at the bottom of page 16. You've got G grace notes down pretty well. You've got D grace notes down pretty well. So now we're going to put the two of them together. So exercise 3.9 is just a series of low A's. And we're going G grace note, D grace note, G grace note, D grace note. Now the way I would think about this, this might be a good opportunity to do that disassociation thing that we talked about in the last video. Just instead of thinking to yourself G grace note, D grace note, if you're having a bit of a hard time with differentiating the G from the G grace note, etc., maybe just think to yourself left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. All right? So what we're building is this sort of muscle memory. Make sure you're looking at the music as you do that, because what we want to build is an association between what you see on the page and what your fingers do. So when you see that G grace note, you want your top pointer finger to just go blip without even having to think about it. And when you see that D grace note, you want your bottom hand pointer finger to go blip without having to think about it. Right? That's what we're going for. Now, don't expect that to happen in the next 2 weeks, right? It'll be over the course of years that you get to this point where you can just kind of, in the same way as you read a page, right? You know, a child learning how to read, you know, it's kind of halting and they have to pause and think and sound things out. But eventually you get to the point where you're reading words as groups, and then you're reading like word groups all together just at a glance as you slide through, and then you get to where you're reading sort of lines, and some people get to a point where they read almost paragraphs at a time, right? And that's how your music reading will become. Right now you're kind of sounding things out, right? But eventually you'll get to where you can kind of look across a line of music, and your fingers just kind of do what it says on the music. It's kind of like magic, but it does take work, so not like magic in that way. So here we go with exercise 3.9. We'll do it slow. We'll go G grace note, D grace note, G grace note, D grace note. I'm sorry, I don't know why my voice is going up and down. It's the same note. G grace note, D grace note, G grace note, D grace note. 1, 2, ready, and. Good, now that time we dropped right in on a grace note. Remember what we talked about a few videos ago? You can start on an E if it's more comfortable for you to start on a note and then dive into the exercise. Let's do it that way one time here. So exercise 3.9, here we go. Ready, and. Good. Pause that and go over it a few times, and then we'll move on to exercise 3.10. So exercise 3.10 is a little bit more difficult, okay? The melody line is going to go A, B, C, B, A, B, A, C. Now for some people, it works really well to play through the melody line of an exercise or a song first without grace notes, and then to add the grace notes in after. And that's perfectly fine. That works really well for some people. For some people, that does not work. For some people, that ends up just being, it's just learning something twice. And so kind of experiment maybe and see what works best for you. Personally, I'm of the persuasion that it ends up for me being like I just have to learn the song twice if I go through it melody first all by itself. So I just kind of usually pile everything all together and go through a little more slowly. But that's just me. There are some players who are way better than me who like to play the melody first and then add the grace notes. So do what works best for you. Right now, let's try it. Let's just play through this melody line without grace notes, okay? We'll play it through twice, and then we'll go back and add the grace notes, okay? So, 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, let's do that again. And feel free to pause it and run through it a few times by yourself if you need to. Here we go. Ready, and. Okay, so now we're going to look at just the first measure. We've got 2 grace notes, right? It opens up with a G grace note to the low A, then we move to B, and then between the B and the C, we've got a D grace note, okay? So B, D grace note to C, okay? B, pinky comes up for the D grace note, and then as the pinky and or excuse me, pointer finger comes up for the D grace note. Then as the pointer finger and pinky come down to form a C, right when they make contact, the middle finger pops off the chanter. So it's B to C, but with a D grace note in between. So B, D grace note, C. Okay, go through those movements a few times. B, D grace note, C. And let's try playing that a couple times. B, D grace note to C. Okay, we'll do that, just that, 2 or 3 times. Here we go. Just move with me on it. Okay, now we tighten that D grace note just a little bit. Now we tighten it a little more. And a little more still. And let's just play it, 5 times in a row. Okay, go over that as many more times as you need to. Let's go back and we'll do the first measure of exercise 3.10. Okay, 1, 2, ready, and. Good, how did that go? Well, this isn't Dora the Explorer, you don't have to answer me, but take a moment to think about how it went. Pause the video if you need to go over that little movement a few more times, and let's tackle that first measure again. 1, 2, ready, and. Let's do it one more time. Ready, and. Cool. Now let's look at the second measure all by itself, okay? We got, we'll pick up from the B that we were on in the first measure. So we'll go from that B, we've got a G grace note to A, okay? So B, G grace note, A. Now we're on that A that starts off the second measure. We've got a D grace note to B, so A, D grace note to B, A, D grace note to B. Okay, let's just go that far. So we're starting on the B at the end of the first measure. B, G grace note to A, then sit on A for a sec. A, D grace note to B. Here we go. And, let's not count it this time. Let's just move together, okay? So just kind of play and move along with me. Here we go. Let's do it like that one more time. Now, of course, that's not how we really want it to sound, right? That G grace note and that D grace note are way too open. So let's tighten them up. Like this. All together. Like that again. Getting kind of a Peter Pan feel from this. Let's do it like that one more time. Okay, now let's tighten up those grace notes just a little bit more. And we're about there. That's about where we want the grace notes to be coming out. So just a little bit tighter. And let's count it this time. 1, 2, ready, and. Two more times. 2, ready, and. Ready, and. Okay, now let's continue the second measure from that B. We've got a G grace note to A. We've already done that, right? It's just like what we did to get into this measure. So B, G grace note to A. And then we've got a D grace note to C. Okay? So in the first measure, we practiced B, D grace note, C. Now we're going A, D grace note, C. Okay? It's just the same, except there's one more finger in the play, and it's the ring finger. So let's go over that movement a couple times. A, D grace note to C. Do that with me. A, D grace note, C. I want that snap to happen all together, right? We're on that A, D grace note, and then all together, these two fingers are going to come up. These two fingers are going to make contact right when these two come off the chanter. snap to C. Okay, A, D grace note, C. Okay, let's do it again. I'll turn this to this other angle here. We'll go A, D grace note to C. Okay, let's play it. We'll all move together. Here we go. And again. Let's do our little progression of tightening that D grace note. So let's get tighter and tighter and tighter over a few times playing it. Okay, let's do the second measure all by itself. We'll pick up from that B at the end of the first measure. So B, G grace note to A, D grace note to B, D, G grace note to A, D grace note to C. Okay, here we go. Oh, I just messed it up. Sorry. Let's do that again. Okay, we'll do that much again, just a little bit faster. And just a little bit faster one more time. Here we go. Oh, here, I'll count us in. 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, now we're going to do the whole exercise all together. 1, 2, ready, and. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, ready, and. Good. Same as everything else. Go over that a billion times all by yourself until you're feeling really good about it. Go back and review stuff from previously, and then we'll move on to page 17 in the next video.